Okay, let's dive straight into this explainer and begin our journey into storage devices. If you think about it, storage is the hardware that holds literally everything users care about. Unlike temporary RAM, which instantly clears out the second the power drops, your storage drives hold the operating system, the apps, critical business documents, and those precious, irreplaceable family photos. When storage goes wrong, it is always an urgent crisis for an IT technician. So today, we are going to master it. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to follow the chronological life cycle of an IT technician's workflow. We'll start with the types of storage devices, move into interfaces and connectors, cover installing and preparing drives, dig into RAID and virtual memory, and finally wrap up with troubleshooting and data protection. But honestly, before we even pick up a screwdriver or touch a single cable, we have to establish the absolute golden rule of IT support. You are safeguarding people's digital lives. So protecting their data comes first. Never format, delete, or replace a drive without asking about a backup. A physical hard drive? Super easy to replace. A user's lost data? That is gone forever. Right, let's jump into Section 1, Types of Storage Devices. This is the hardware that actually keeps data safe, even when the computer is completely unplugged from the wall. You are going to encounter a really broad spectrum of storage out in the wild. You've got your standard internal drives installed inside the computer case, and external portable drives that connect over USB, usually for backups. You'll also see smaller removable media like flash drives and SD cards for quick file transfers. And of course, there's cloud or off-site storage, where data lives on remote servers managed by providers like Microsoft OneDrive or Google Drive. Now, there's a pretty stark contrast between the two main types of internal drives. On one side, you have your older mechanical hard disk drives, or HDDs. These actually use physical magnetic spinning platters and tiny moving read/write heads. They're fantastic for massive, cheap storage, but because they have moving parts, they are super sensitive to drops and vibrations. On the other side, we have solid-state drives, or SSDs. These use non-volatile flash memory. With absolutely zero moving parts, they're wildly faster, quieter, and incredibly durable. They're perfect for modern laptops and holding your operating system, even if they do cost a bit more per gigabyte. Moving on to Section 2, Drive Interfaces and Connectors. Let's figure out how these drives actually plug into a motherboard, navigating what can sometimes feel like a massive alphabet soup of cables. As a technician, you've got to recognize these connectors purely by sight. Notice how a standard desktop SATA drive needs two completely separate L-shaped cables. You have a small SATA data cable connecting to the motherboard and a wider SATA power cable coming straight from the power supply. You'll also run into SAS connectors. They look pretty similar, but they're specifically designed for high-speed, ultra-reliable enterprise server environments. So the crucial takeaway here is that physical shape isn't everything. SSDs come in totally different form factors. You have that traditional 2.5-inch block that uses the SATA cables we just talked about, but then you have the M.2 form factor, which literally looks like a small stick of gum and plugs directly into the motherboard. But here is the catch. An M.2 drive can use that older, slower SATA interface, or it can use a vastly faster interface called NVMe. NVMe, which stands for Non-Volatile Memory Express, unlocks just unbelievable speeds. It completely bypasses the SATA bottleneck and uses the motherboard's PCIe lanes instead. But hey, massive technician caution right here. You must always check the motherboard documentation. Size and keying absolutely matter, and an M.2 NVMe drive simply won't work in an M.2 slot that only supports SATA. Okay, Section 3, Installing and Preparing Drives. Let's dive into the climax of our hardware journey, the strict logical sequence of getting a computer to actually use a brand new drive. Listen, just physically screwing in a drive and plugging in the cables does not mean Windows can instantly use it. You have to follow these 6 steps precisely. After physical installation, you must check firmware detection in the BIOS or UEFI. Only after confirming that do you boot into the operating system to initialize, partition, format, and finally assign a drive letter. I really want to pause on step 2 for a second. If a drive isn't showing up in Windows, do not panic and assume it's dead out of the box. The BIOS or UEFI starts your hardware up before the operating system even loads. If a SATA port is disabled in the firmware or the storage mode is set wrong, that drive will be totally invisible to Windows. Always verify the hardware is detected by the motherboard first. Now, when you finally get into Windows, steps 3 through 6 happen right inside a built-in tool called Disk Management. This is where the magic happens.
A brand new, completely blank drive will just show up as raw, unallocated space. Using this tool, you initialize the disk structure, create a usable partition, apply a file system like NTFS by formatting it, and finally give it a drive letter, like D, so it actually pops up in File Explorer for the user to see.
Let's transition to Section 4, RAID and virtual memory. These are advanced concepts, but they serve as absolutely crucial safety nets and performance boosters for a system. First up, let's talk performance. When a computer's physical RAM completely runs out, Windows gets clever. It uses a page file on your storage drive as virtual memory, temporarily swapping data over to the drive. But remember, even the fastest SSD on the market is still way slower than RAM. If a system is leaning heavily on virtual memory, it's going to feel incredibly sluggish. So always check if low RAM is the real culprit behind high disk usage. Now, to protect against a physical drive failing, we use something called fault tolerance. In the storage world, this is usually achieved using RAID, which stands for Redundant Array of Independent Disks. RAID balances speed and redundancy across multiple drives. You've got RAID 0, which uses striping for pure speed, but if one drive dies, you lose everything. Then there's RAID 1, which mirrors exact copies across 2 drives for safety. And finally, RAID 5, which mixes striping with error-checking parity across at least 3 drives. That setup allows the whole system to survive even if a single drive completely fails.
It helps to visualize how these data blocks move. Look at RAID 1 in the middle. Block A1 is perfectly mirrored on both disks. It's super safe, but you're giving up half your total storage capacity to get that safety. Now look at RAID 5 on the right. See those gray parity blocks mixed in with the data? That parity data acts like a mathematical puzzle piece, allowing the system to literally rebuild lost data on the fly if one of those 3 drives dies. Pretty amazing, right?
But here is the crucial point, and you will hear this repeated by literally every seasoned IT pro on the planet. RAID is not a backup. RAID is purely designed to keep a system running if a piece of hardware fails. But if a user accidentally deletes a critical file, or if a nasty ransomware virus encrypts the system, RAID will just happily and instantly mirror that deleted or corrupted state to all your other drives. You still need off-site backups. Period.
All right, final section, troubleshooting and data protection. Let's talk about how to handle things when they inevitably go wrong using a logical, layered troubleshooting approach. When you're troubleshooting storage, you really have to think in layers. First, identify the symptom, but then immediately, before doing anything else, protect the data. Once you know the data is safe, check the physical connections. Are the cables loose? Then move up a layer to the firmware. Does the BIOS even see the drive? Then check the OS in disk management. Only after exhausting all those logical steps do you start running diagnostic tests or replacing hardware. Say you're dealing with an older mechanical HDD that's failing. Start by asking the user what changed. Was the laptop dropped? But honestly, the most important warning sign is sound. If you hear repeated clicking, grinding, or whining noises, stop unnecessary use immediately. Those mechanical heads are actively destroying the magnetic platters, and every single second that drive spends makes data recovery that much harder.
SSDs, on the other hand, are completely different beasts. Because they have 0 moving parts, you aren't going to get any warning noises. They fail silently, and they often fail suddenly. Also, here is a vital maintenance tip for you. Never, ever run an old-school HDD defragmentation on an SSD. Windows already optimizes SSDs differently, and forcing a manual defrag will just needlessly wear out the lifespan of the flash memory. Just don't do it. I want to hammer this golden rule home one last time because it is the defining habit of a good IT technician. Never run aggressive repair tools like CHKDSK, never format a partition, and absolutely never reinstall Windows until you are 100% certain the user's data is safely backed up somewhere else. Think about the stakes we discussed today. Storage is the beating heart of a user's entire digital existence. Actually, do me a favor and check your own backup habits right now. Are your family photos safe if your SSD suddenly gives out today? Keep exploring the incredible architecture of PC storage, stay curious, and remember, always protect the data first.